Every day we make choices. In fact, selection is such a common process that a lot of the time we hardly even think about it. Like when you're in a hurry and just want to pick up some fruit for the mob of kids at home. Look, you wouldn't want spoiled fish or rotten fruit or vegetables, so we become very selective, especially when it comes to things that we're going to put into our bodies. Take supplements, for example. Supplements are a specialized form of food that millions of people use every day. But do you really know what goes into the supplements you take? Does it matter? Actually, it does. These are nuts, specifically peanuts. And we all know the only part of a peanut that's digestible and nutritious is the actual fruit inside this hard outer shell. However, everything here, including the shell, is considered part of the peanut. So if someone made a product and included the shell but no fruit, they would in effect be using peanut, just not the part that's beneficial. Surprisingly, some nutritional companies out there do just that with their supplements, like this. Just because a product contains a particular raw ingredient doesn't mean it contains those active chemical compounds that offer the stated benefits. In some plants, it's a certain part of the leaf, harvested at a specific time of day during a particular part of the year. In other cases, it could be the root or the stem. It's also important to ensure that these ingredients are passed to us in a form that our bodies can actually use. The process of identifying and understanding active ingredients begins with carefully gathering information. From ancient records to the most recent clinical studies, these volumes are available to almost anyone who's interested and can read a half dozen Eastern and Western languages. But it takes years of experience and scientific savvy to know what is valid research and how to interpret it. And that's just the beginning. Chemical analysis, traveling the world to find the right plants containing the right chemical compounds, toxicity studies, compatibility studies, safety studies, clinical studies, applying all this complicated data to make a formula that can be utilized by the body. This business of making a good supplement is just plain complicated. One company has tackled this challenge in an extraordinary way. It readily acknowledges that a large and diverse team of scientists is needed to grapple with the complexities of natural ingredients. Nutritionists, pharmacologists, organic chemists, biochemists, immunologists, botanists, toxicologists, even MDs. And these aren't just ordinary scientists. They've produced dozens of patents and scientific papers. Their work is internationally recognized. And even this isn't enough for them. They also team up with leading scientists around the world for research and clinical studies. You know that even with the team Pharmanex has, it takes many months, sometimes years, to fully understand the chemical profile of a single plant. Certain chemical compounds in the plant may be toxic, and if so, scientists need to determine how they can be removed. Most importantly, in order to ensure that the ingredient is really going to work, careful studies are conducted to identify the active ingredients. Once these are determined, more tests help verify what levels of active ingredients are most efficacious. But the work still isn't finished. There are literally hundreds of factors that can affect not only the quality, but also the quantity of active ingredients in a plant. Factors such as weather conditions during the growing season, area humidity, levels of rainfall, nutrients in the soil, crop rotations and other disease prevention efforts, methods of insect control, amounts of sunlight, temperatures, and the list goes on and on.
Every time we purchase an ingredient for Pharmanex products, one of our sourcing members goes to the actual manufacturer of the ingredient and takes samples. Those samples are brought back here to our Shanghai lab to be tested. We test for heavy metals, solvent residue, pesticides, assay. Every single item in the spec is tested. If those pass, we accept the shipment and they go directly to our Provo warehouse. If not, we reject.
Whoa, rejected product. Now, that's not something I want in my body. There's nothing better than fresh bread. You can eat that later. Now, to help you understand the process that creates a product, let's use a loaf of cinnamon bread as an example. Now, what if a baker used a small proportion of flour and a huge amount of yeast instead of the other way around? Now, if the ratios of ingredients are not just right or blended in just the right order, bread would turn out totally different, despite the best intentions. For instance, you can't put in the raisins first and then add the yeast, or leave some of the ingredients unmixed. Sometimes contaminants can get into a recipe without you even realizing it. Now, if you don't have some way of examining your final product, you may not know what's really in there. When it comes to something you take to improve your health, you really want to be sure that it contains only the right ingredients blended in the right way. And the only way to ensure their safety is with careful testing, like this. Imagine taking a single drop of ink and putting it into an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Then, when it's all mixed in, we take a drop of water from that pool so we can test it. This is a GCMS, which stands for gas chromatography mass spectrometer. The compound you want to test is dissolved into a solution, then heated to become a gas. The gas flows through a little tiny tube which physically separates the compound of interest from other compounds. It's then detected by the mass spectrometer, and the amount can be determined with amazing accuracy. From that single drop of water from the Olympic-sized pool, containing over 700,000 gallons, the GCMS can detect that original drop of ink. That's a detection of nearly 1 part per 53 billion. That's the kind of sensitivity that's possible with these amazing instruments. And it's another example of how thorough Pharmanex is when it comes to verifying a product's safety and efficacy. Applying space-age physics, studying ancient records and modern research, analyzing molecules, traveling the world and watching weather conditions, blending raw ingredients, and diligent ongoing testing. What we've been talking about is the Pharmanex 6S quality process. It involves a complex set of highly integrated activities to ensure that Pharmanex products deliver on their promises every capsule, every bottle, every time. For simplicity, the activities are grouped into 6 categories: selection, sourcing, structure, standardization, safety, and substantiation. At Pharmanex, selection starts with exhaustive research and careful analysis not just by 1 or 2 scientists, but by top PhDs who confer across the globe. Once the right ingredients have been selected from thousands of options, the experts in sourcing join the process, and the hunt for the best raw materials begins. Now, just because an ingredient has the same name as one in a study or scientific document isn't good enough. In order to know exactly which plant is good enough, the molecular structure is analyzed. Not only do we make sure we're using the right part of the plant, but the active molecules are identified and tested to study toxicity, potency, and effectiveness. We know that all sorts of things can affect those active ingredients. So, on-site testing is conducted on a regular basis to ensure we're getting the purity and quality of ingredients required. And Pharmanex isn't satisfied with just a sprinkling of the active ingredients. Again, extensive testing and clinical studies help determine the right amount of actives needed in each dose. This information allows strict standards to be created. Not only are the actives standardized, but every single capsule needs to contain all the ingredients at the right levels. And every product needs to be thoroughly and carefully blended to ensure that the ingredients will maintain effectiveness and store properly. Concern for safety runs through every stage of product development. Let's say you take just 4 capsules twice a day for a year, 10 years, or for the rest of your life. Just a minute amount of contaminants or toxins would add up. Pharmanex uses the most advanced testing procedures available to ensure the absence of toxins in each and every capsule. Scientific testing at the highest level takes place throughout everything Pharmanex does. All this testing is what comprises substantiation. Preclinical and clinical studies back every product claim. A product must pass each level of scrutiny. If it doesn't, the product or the ingredient is rejected. The whole 6S process requires constant collaboration across scientific and manufacturing disciplines and a unified commitment to quality.